from 80 to 85%. So the Rakyat did their part. The Rakyat did their part. I feel bad because I remember giving speeches saying, if the Rakyat come out in big enough numbers, we can fight the fraud. We did in many of the instances because of our sheer numbers, but we couldn't in many of the instances as well. But let me say this, Haris may be too impatient to wait for people's thought, as it were. Bersih has already set up people. All right. We have already set up a people's panel. For this reason, because the election petitions, as you said, Azmi, do not deal with the elections as a whole. And we need a panel to look at the elections as a whole and to look at all the issues relating to the fraud in these elections. We all know what we saw on the web. We all know what we heard. We all got SMSs. Some of us actually witnessed it. But as a lawyer, for me, until we gather all the evidence and have an irrefutable case, it's of no use. Rumors and film, even film with John Pantau, by the way, which is who you should write to, we verify before we use. So we need to have an ironclad case, because for me, actually, they may have all the resources of government, they may have the resources of the police, special branch, etc., but we are going to have the power of truth on our side.
Yeah.
But that truth must emerge systematically in an organized fashion, and we can do it. I can tell you, John Pantau is already receiving so many reports, and we verify before we accept those reports. But what this People's Tribunal is going to do, not People's Panel, sorry, People's Tribunal. And in fact, Jerald and Ivy and Irene and Mira have already met, because they're the ones who are going to make sure the panel is appointed. They have come up with some wonderful names, and they are going to go into action by June. That's not too long to wait, because evidence gathering takes time. But unless we base it on facts which are irrefutable, we are going to look silly. Let me tell you, for example, this rumor about lights going out in Bento. If I had worked on that rumor and said it, I would have looked like a fool, because someone else immediately after that said, actually the lights didn't go out. Well, we heard what happened. The lights didn't go out in Bento. These are the things we must verify. And I'll tell you why it's worthwhile. Because the truth is on our side. For goodness sake. For goodness sake. And election petition, which I would advise every candidate who was hard done by to file an election petition. By the way, an election petition can even be filed by a voter. Okay? Remember that. Can even be filed by a voter. Am I right? Well, I checked it. It can be filed by a voter, right? Enough grounds, let me tell you, for an election petition. But we must swamp the court with that evidence. We have to make it so compelling that no judge could refuse that petition. And we can do it. If we rush now and try to do something in 1 week, we can come back and refute it so easily. Why do we run that risk? And I think the panel, the intention is June, 1 month we're talking about. In this 1 month, and I'm telling you, don't ever give up hope. Because the truth does prevail. And what I have found in these elections is, you had phase 1 of the unfairness against the opposition. It starts with the redelineation. You were talking about Sabah and Sarawak. That's not the problem, actually. The problem is the redelineation, is the way constituencies are delineated.
Yes.
Sabah, Sarawak only have 56 seats versus our, the remainder of the 222 here. Sabah has 25, Sarawak has 31. That's as per. Doctors in the room, please. Thank you to the doctors. So they start with a huge disadvantage, all right? That's one disadvantage only, the constituent redelineation. Let me give you another figure, all right? If it has been found that if Barisan had won 15% of the popular vote, they would have got a simple majority in parliament. That's actually the figure, 15 to 18 to 17%. So they were working against that, the opposition. Number two, opposition doesn't get constituency allowances. Barisan MPs get it, 1 to 2 million a year, all right? Another disadvantage that they have. The media, another disadvantage. There's several stacked against them, we know that. That's part one of the mountain they have to climb. Part two was when the campaign period started. You have the smear campaign, you have all these other things. Then part three, for me, was what happened on polling day. Even I didn't expect the extent of the fraud that took place. But let me tell you this, it was so overt. It was so overt, we can get the evidence. We can get the, we're already compiling the evidence. So what I would say is, this tribunal is the way to go where we are concerned. This tribunal and the election petition, both must go. And we must call on our judges to now stand and defend the rights of the Rakyat. That's what we expect them to do. And you will be surprised, because we are not the only ones who voted. There are many people who voted who may feel that their votes have been stolen from them. But I agree with Jerald, let's be clinical. Now's not the time to be emotional. Now's the time to be clinical. The evidence is there because they were so obvious this time. Let's use the truth against them. That's what I would say. Thank you.